You know, throughout time and across cultures, we as humans tell stories. And we especially tell stories about big concepts and big happenings that we have a hard time wrapping our mind around. You know, if there's a tsunami, we might tell a story about a sea god with his trident. You know, when people fall in love, we might tell a story about this little Cupid with his angels. When someone dies and we don't know what happens, we might tell this story about a kingdom in the clouds. These stories aren't lies. They're trying to convey an important truth about life, something that's difficult for us to understand and get our minds around. But they're not fact either. They're a truth-bearing myth. Hi, it's Rachelle Mee-Chapman here with another episode of Relig-ish, where you can find care for your creative souls. You know, one of the things my Relig-ish clients ask me about this time of year is how to engage with the story of the birth of Christ. There's so many fantastical elements of this story. There is a virgin birth. There is a visit from angels. There is wise men following a star. There are shepherds that somehow find this little itty bitty baby in the midst of a crowded, overcrowded city. If you have to engage with it as 100% scientifically true, factual, historically accurate, you can have sort of a catch, a little pause, and it can disconnect you from this important sacred text. The challenge for Relig-ish folks is that a lot of religious institutions ask us to engage with this story as though it is a historic fact, and as though every element in the story is something that actually factually happened. So what I would like to suggest is approaching these biblical tales, especially the one of the Nativity, as a truth-bearing myth, if that's right fit for you. Now, what do our sacred stories do for us? They tell us about our source, who we are and where we come from. Our sacred stories explain our place in the world, how we relate to others, and how we relate to the divine. And they convey important truths about the core values that we want to have in our lives, or the core values that you're passing down to your family. So how does the Nativity story do these three things for us? First of all, the story of the arrival of Christ as a savior figure, as someone who is going to be a rescuer, tells us that we come from a place of love and a place of importance. We're so important, our little human race here, that the gods would send someone to rescue us. So the underlying truth in this story is that you are loved and you are worthy, and there is resource at hand for you. How does it help you explain your place in the world and your relation to the divine and to others? Well, an interesting thing to do with this, especially with your family, is to look at each character in turn in the story and to ask your family, like, which character do you relate to? For instance, Mary is a servant and a vessel and a place where good things incubate and grow. Like, how are good things incubating and growing in you? How are you, Mary? Joseph is a protector and a faithful figure in the life of Mary. Are you a faithful figure in the life of others? Who is a faithful figure in your life? The seekers are the shepherds. They're searching for something. They're looking for something important. What are you seeking for in your life? Who are you seeking and how are you finding it? And the angel, the announcer, is the bearer of good news. Who brings good news into your life, and who are you the bearer of good news to? So these characters in this story tell us true things about who we are and what our roles might be. And you can also talk about the underlying values that are told in the bedrock of this story. They're pretty easy because we sing about them all the time at Christmas time to find the underlying values in this particular story. Love, hope, peace, joy to the world. So telling this story to your family and to your own soul, like sometimes I'll say to your own baby soul, conveys the fact that these values exist in the world. Love, hope, peace, joy. They can exist in your life. You can extend them to others. And at times they mysteriously and perhaps supernaturally come to us in ways that we can't explain. If you're going through a religious shift, you don't have to abandon your sacred stories. You can see them as a truth-bearing myth. So here's what I'd like you to get curious about this week as you think about the nativity story. Why has this story remained so important in our socio-historic patterns? Why sociologically is this story important? How has it been important historically? And how is it important historically to you specifically and to your family specifically? Why is this story key to you personally and not another story? What did this story mean to you when you were growing up? And what does it mean to you now? And how do you feel about that difference? And where are you standing with that? And how do you want to pass this story on? Get curious about that and see what comes up. You know, we live in the Pacific Northwest and it is dark right now. It's dark by about 4 o'clock. It's pitch black when we wake up in the morning. And my children need something, and I need something to look forward to in this dark time. We need a light in the darkness so that we know the darkness cannot overcome it. And so one of the ways that we're passing on this story is that every morning for the last couple weeks of school, when the kids come down for breakfast, there is one of our collection of winter and nativity tale picture books at their breakfast place. The grandparents have been very kind to us over the years, and we have this gorgeous collection of picture books of both winter stories and the nativity story. And so every day there's one waiting for them. And you know, my kids are 12 and 14 now, and I thought maybe they would be getting tired of these, you know, little kid picture books. But both of them told me this year, Mom, we can't wait for Advent to start so that when we wake up in the dark, there's a story. There's a story about the light, because the light comes into the darkness and the darkness does not overcome it. And that's how we're passing on this sacred text, not as a piece of historic fact, but as a harbinger of the truth about light and love. I hope that inspires you to find a way to incorporate your historic stories into your Relig-ish now. And if you'd like to see the list of stories that we share with our kids over the Advent and Christmas season, I have a post for you over on my blog, Magpie Girl, Care for Creative Souls, and you can find my whole list of recommendations there at magpiegirl.com. Until we meet again, get curious, trust your gut, and live from a place of love. Lots of warmth.